Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Now, is there anything worse than the moment you go to switch on your newly acquired PC and nothing happens? Okay, there probably is, but it's not a very nice feeling nonetheless, and it's exactly what happened to my friend. Now, he bought a second-hand MSI Nightblade gaming PC from CEX, and it was running fine for a couple of days until he decided to open it up, remove some of the dust, and attempt a little bit of cable management. Since then, it hasn't switched on for him at all, and he's worried that he may have broken something in the cleaning process. So I said I'd take a look for him, and I thought I'd bring you guys along for the ride as well to see what's up with this gaming machine. Now, this MSI Nightblade features a Pentium G3258, one of my all-time favourite CPUs, though admittedly one that's not entirely all that capable anymore, as well as an NVIDIA or MSI GT730, an entry-level card that should still be okay when it comes to handling a few lightweight or esports titles at lower settings. Now, my friend doesn't really play much aside from Grand Theft Auto Vice City and San Andreas, and I don't blame him, they're both fantastic games, so he really didn't need that much horsepower under the hood, and he liked the design of these old MSI systems. So let's get into it, talk about what I did in an attempt to fix this thing, and discuss what turned out to be a much simpler solution to this problem than I had initially imagined. So this thing is why I didn't have time to make a Sunday Tech Talk video yesterday. As you can see, before investigating further, I decided to give it a quick test just in case it wanted to miraculously spring into life. And nothing. First things first then, and the side panel would have to come off. It's certainly looking very tidy inside here now, and I was told by my mate that he pretty much stripped it down to clean every component. That's always a good idea, especially if you're buying a second-hand PC, but it meant that any one of these parts could have suffered damage. If you find yourself in a similar situation, the best thing to do is to take everything out of the case and test all of your components individually. It's a long-winded and frustrating process, especially if you don't have another PC to test it with, but it's the only way to find the culprit. I started with the graphics card, the 4GB DDR3 GT730. If you ever consider buying one of these, opt for the GDDR5 version instead, as with all graphics cards. After testing the Incredible Simpsons hit and run for 10 minutes, I concluded that the card was working, and doing so without issue. I also removed the G3258 from the board and tested it in a spare 1151, along with the RAM. This was also working fine. Surely then, the problem lied with the motherboard, or power supply. There was no way to avoid it, the power supply would have to come out. This is where I had my eureka moment. Actually, I never felt so stupid and clever at the same time. Being an ITX system, I noticed the power supply wasn't in the traditional spot in the case, but tracing the cables back to the source gave me a good idea of where it was hiding. To access it, we'd need to bring out the heavy machinery. With the screwdriver in hand, it was time to remove every screw I could see to try and get to that PSU. That's the only problem with ITX cases, they're a little more fiddly. With this top part of the enclosure removed, the problem became immediately apparent. The power supply switch was set to the off position. Because this wasn't my mistake, I didn't feel too silly about uploading this video, and with permission from my friend, I did so. Plus, I thought it was worth making because I felt it's important to highlight that any PC problems you may have aren't always that bad. Sometimes the fix is obvious or unexpected. I also realised that the front panel connector wasn't hooked up, so even if the PSU was turned on, the power button would do nothing. So what actually happened to this cable? Well, it was time to get up close and personal with the Nightblade. After assessing the situation and studying all the cables in the case, I noticed that this one was sitting quite loosely on the board. It was still hooked up, but the connector didn't really match the motherboard header. Needless to say, I was over the moon when it fit perfectly on the case's top header. But was this all it took to get things up and running? Well, I went back inside, hooked up the mains cable and nervously pressed the power button, and lo and behold, I was greeted by the loud rush of air sweeping through the case. The DVD drive was also quite loud, but after hitting eject in Windows, it seems I received a free gift. Maybe this was payment for helping a friend. With the PC back to normal, I ran a few benchmark tests to see how these components held up in 2019, and it's safe to say the experience wasn't brilliant. The AAA games I tried all struggled even at 720p, but when I got round to firing up CSGO, the game performed okay. It's probably the fault of the DDR3 730. Like I say, the GDDR5 version would be better. I was actually a little disappointed the fix wasn't more difficult, because it would have probably made for a more interesting video, but I've still got a huge smile on my face as I say the following and humiliate my friend in front of thousands of people. Bradley, you left the power switch off, you moron. Seriously though, it goes to show that all computer related problems aren't always serious, and what seems like a difficult fix at first could just be a minor problem that's been hastily overlooked. With all that said and done, thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Leave a like on it if you did, leave a dislike if you didn't, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and hopefully I'll see all of you in the next one.